What's up, everyone? I'm Scott,
And I'm Jason.
and you are listening to Liquid Carnage. My friend, spring has sprung, and they have turned the temperature up in Arizona.
Well, they turned the temperature down in Oceanside, California. It was so cold all weekend. It was so cold that I was like, wow, we picked the wrong time of year, I guess, to come here. You know, they say that the San Diego area is supposed to be like average temperature 78 degrees, something like that.
Uh-huh.
With the wind, it was so cold that it wasn't even, we didn't go in the water. We didn't even walk along the beach very much. It was just too cold.
Well, with as cold as it's been, man, you won't be able to get the Pacific Ocean until at least June without freezing.
Oh yeah. It was insane though. Those people, man, they go surfing and they wear their little wetsuits and they're out there for hours. And I was like, oh, you
Yeah.
gotta be crazy. You are absolutely crazy.
It's typical spring weather right now for those of us that know we're in the Southwest in Arizona. Last week, jackets, wind was howling, sideways rain. Then for the holiday weekend, 70, 75 degrees, no wind, perfect to be outside. And Monday rolls around, I go to work. It's starting to get nice in the mornings. I go to work at 6 a.m. And it's starting to get nice where you don't need a heavy jacket in the morning anymore, but you don't need any jacket at all by lunchtime. And about 9 o'clock this morning, I walked out of my office building to go to a different one, and I swear to God, I thought it was June.
Yeah. Yeah, hot, huh?
Like it was like it's like they turned off the cooler and hit the heater, and your body got no chance to adjust.
Yeah, it was really weird because Sunday was Easter.
Yeah.
And and we're in a foreign city, right? We're not in our hometown. We don't have kids anymore, so we don't do some of those things that you do for Easter. But there was a lot of restaurants and bars and stuff that were closed because of Easter.
Hmm. But
And
there were a lot that were open because of Easter.
well, there were a couple that were open, but we didn't. I mean, it was more closed than open where we were.
Really?
Yeah, more closed than
That,
open.
that's it. That's interesting because here, everything was open. It was just another normal Sunday. And I'll be honest, had we not hid eggs for the girls and whatnot and gotten them Easter baskets, I don't think they would have known or cared it was Easter.
Well, I guess it's so weird now because these holidays have changed so much from a more religious kind of background or feel to more of a secular kind of feel where,
Hmm.
where they do these things. So I can imagine that kids, especially kids who are not, as, religious based as they might have been 100 years ago, 50 years ago.
Yeah.
I could see why Easter would be like, yeah, we get an Easter basket, we go look for eggs, and that's it.
Well, it's funny because we didn't color Easter eggs this year because the girls did it at different friends' houses and they brought eggs home and there was no, I don't want to say there was no buildup, but it was very anticlimactic. And it feels weird to say it like that, but like Saturday night rolled around, like they went to bed and Janice was very much like, oh shit, we have to hide the eggs. It's like, no, we're not hiding these eggs until the morning because I don't want animals in our house out finding hard boiled eggs in the middle of the night. And also, that's disgusting because what if they go bad? Because we have to
Oh,
eat those things too.
yeah. Okay. There you go.
So that's like, I'll get up early, I'll hide them, not a big deal. And it occurred to me, well, this is our third Easter together now. We've been together for almost 3 years.
Okay.
Uh, and hold on, 21, 20, yeah, third Easter together. And I realized that my significant other has no memory of what we've done in the past.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
She has, like, in her own mind, like, she created that we would do brunch with my parents and we would do this and we would do that. And I'm looking at her like, who are you doing this with the last couple years? Because this is not what we did on Easter.
Yeah.
And she would
Okay.
swear up and down, like, no, my parents have never come over for brunch until this year. That was it. But, it was just one of those, like, I don't know what you're remembering versus what actually happened, but they're two very different things.
Okay. Okay. Now, Noreen had done a little bit of research on the most populated religions in the world, and
Hmm.
number three was atheist.
Really?
Yeah, number
Behind
three,
Muslim and Christian?
behind Islam, Muslim, and Christianity, or yeah,
Yep.
yeah. But I thought because that beat Hindi and Buddhist too.
Really?
Yeah, atheist was, and I didn't even think you could consider atheist a religion, but when you consider that it's the third largest religious belief system in the world, it kind of is understandable why the ideas of what we consider Easter have changed,
Yeah.
and the celebrations have changed, from where it was a very religious holiday, right? I mean, it's a very religious holiday. It's, the resurrection of Christ. And so you had a lot of more religious, you know, focus and going to church and spending time with family and doing to now it's turned into,
Now you got a bunny hiding eggs.
bunny hiding eggs. Yeah. Yeah. Which,
Very, very, very different appeal and thought process on the Easter holiday.
yeah. And so I can see why it was kind of weird that there were a lot of, like where we were, there were a lot of restaurants that were closed, a lot of stores that were closed.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, interesting. Okay. I didn't put it together that should happen, but it makes total sense to me.
Yeah, no, I'll be honest. I was in the grocery store at 6:30 in the morning, and it was very busy. With people buying fresh flowers, like getting like the stuff fresh for like their brunches or whatever else. Um, but there's always sunrise services for the Easter holiday. I remember as a kid, it was a big family holiday for us, at least my mom's side of the family. We would go to sunrise service, then we'd have a meal afterward, and we would just spend the day hanging out, playing games or whatnot. But we'd be together as a family, eating
Sure.
chocolate and getting diabetes. And I don't remember any stores being open. I don't remember. Of course, I couldn't drive. I think maybe the movies started to be open when I was a teenager. And then once I finally started working, like I remember I had to work some Easter Sundays. And then once I became an adult, it was no big deal. It was like everything's open. I was in college. And then it was just another day by the time I was in my 20s and 30s. So it kind of lost meaning. It's a very different feeling than Thanksgiving because that feels like that's making a renaissance back into everything's closed for the Thanksgiving holiday.
Yeah, well, and you know how it is. I mean, a lot of grocery stores are still open on Thanksgiving now till like 2 o'clock, or people are working, in the retail industry on Thanksgivings. Where when I was a kid, Thanksgiving was a ghost town. I mean, everything was closed because everyone was spending holidays
Well,
with their families, and so the
the last
idea.
couple of years, though, Walmart and Target and Kohl's and all the big box stores have put their foot down and said, no, we're closing on Thanksgiving itself. No
Oh, okay.
opening at 6 p.m., no opening at 8 p.m. Like we are giving our employees Thanksgiving. You can have your Black Friday deals leading up to Thanksgiving and afterward, but the Thanksgiving day itself, we are closed.
What do you feel about that? Like, how do you feel as a consumer?
I don't care one way or the other because as long as you get the deal, that's all that really matters.
Okay.
But being on my own for so long on the holiday, it was always fun for me to go to like Walmart on Thanksgiving and just see what they got going on and help it out by getting things at the grocery store. So to me, I could take it or leave it because you're right. Safeway or Smith's is always open till 2 o'clock and whatnot. I don't care about shopping because most everything I buy is online anyway now. So, I mean, as long as it gets here within the allotted time frame, I don't really care.
Right. I mean, to me, it's always been kind of hit or miss. I kind of like the idea that on a holiday, if I have the day off, sometimes I want to go to a movie or sometimes I want to go
Yeah.
do something, or maybe I don't want to cook a big dinner. I want to go out and get a dinner. It reminds me of the Christmas Story, where they
Yeah.
lose the
Yeah.
dinner, so they have to go to the Chinese restaurant, for a Christmas dinner.
And there's always some risk. Like I think retail is more or less closing down for like Thanksgiving, but there's some other like the non-chain restaurants, the independent restaurants that stay open and offer Thanksgiving meals, and movie theaters tend to open up later on in the afternoon too. Because I've gone to quite a few movies on Thanksgiving night and
Right.
Christmas night.
Yeah.
So I think I think they try to give the morning and the afternoon for the families, and then I don't want to say the necessary recreational industries, but the recreational family-based industries like the movie theaters or maybe even Topgolf will open up later on at night, so you can go out there and do family activities, and I think that's kind of nice.
Now you have kids in school, so how do they celebrate these kind of holidays for you guys now?
The school district that I coach baseball for had no school today in observance of Easter.
Oh, okay.
And
So they do celebrate the holidays kind of.
I guess I don't remember having this when I was a kid, but someone pointed out that they used to base spring break around Easter
Yes.
when we were growing up, so it would end. So maybe that we got Good Friday off because we were on spring break, and then we didn't get that Monday afterward off because we just had a week off. So
Yeah, there's a lot
I
of
don't know,
schools now that do 5 weeks on and 2 weeks off, 5 weeks on, 2 weeks
but
off.
9 weeks,
What is
nine and
it?
two,
9 and 2,
9 and
nine and 2. That's just weird to me, man. That's just so weird to me.
we've got friends that one of our school districts here does that, and I don't think it's that big of a deal because really they start a month later than the other school here,
Uh-huh.
or a month earlier. I'm sorry. So
A month earlier.
they start in like maybe not even a month, like 2 to 3 weeks before the other school here, and they have 2 weeks off in the fall, 2 weeks off at Christmas, 2 weeks at spring break, and then about 8 or 9 weeks off from May until mid July.
Why do you think they've done that? Like, what is the purpose of doing that?
I don't know, to be honest with you.
I have
I can see.
a theory.
What's your theory?
Because we have so many more parents that work, both sets of parents work. I'm wondering if they break it up to give parents a little easier time of finding activities for their kids without, 3 months of having to find a daycare and find stuff. But if you have 2 weeks, you can kind of work around that a little bit easier. I'm
Yeah.
wondering if they've made it so that it's more helpful to parents when both parents work.
Yeah, I think that's a big piece of it.
Maybe. I'm
The
assuming. I'm making an assumption that I don't know.
the school season is traditionally built around harvest season. Like if farming, planting, harvest season would be, you let kids out of school the end of May, and you have June, July, and August to farm, plant your seeds, grow your seeds, and you harvest it all leading into the fall. And then they go back to the school as everything starts to cool down. So that's where we got the 3 months off in the summertime. And now I don't think it's that big of a deal. I think the 2 weeks off here and there lets families be better about taking different types of vacations. I think it's, like you said, it's easier to get time off to go do things, or it's easier to work around 2 weeks off versus trying to figure out 3 months. Cause I remember when we were kids, my parents would still have to go to work at, 7 or 8 in the morning, and they would leave a chore list for my brother and I. And we would have to do our chores so that they check in with my mom. My grandparents might come in and check on us throughout the week, or pick us up to go do things to get us out of the house. But there's a lot of times where my brother and I would wake up, we'd do our chores, and then we would be on our own until my mom came home at 3:30, and then we could go swimming. And it was rinse and repeat all summer long.
Yeah,
I was
I was
raised by
trying
the
to think.
Chicago Cubs in
Yeah.
TB and WGN in the summertime.
Yeah, yeah, I remember that. Like I did, when I was in school, it was definitely, start the Wednesday before Labor Day and end, that first week in June. That was it,
Yeah.
and then you'd have the 3 months, that 3 months during the summer. And usually my parents coordinated a trip down to see my grandmother and my grandfather in in the California area. For a couple weeks. And then, I would basically play outside with friends. And in Alaska, you have a lot of places like go in the woods and go hiking, or you go into, you go to the glaciers and walk around there. That was just what the kids did. And so we had a lot of time where both my parents were working. And so I didn't have someone at home to coordinate those kind of things. I just kind of went out and did my own thing, very self-reliant.
Yeah, we were a hybrid of that. Like we had friends in the neighborhood that we'd go out and do things with. We could ride bikes. Our grandparents would pick us up to go help them do things. We stayed fairly active, but we weren't home all the time by ourselves. But there was a good portion of as we were getting older, that we spent days at home, because it's what it was back then. You could do that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, I agree. And how old were you when you got to stay home alone?
I think we were probably around, I was probably around third grade. So my brother was probably in fifth grade, like going into like fourth and sixth or something like there.
8 to 9. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember I was like that too. 8 to 9, I was able to kind of stay home alone, but it'd be better if you could play with friends. So I had a couple friends that I would hang out with, at 8 or 9.
Yeah. And if you ask my parents, my mom would probably remember differently. But as I get older, I realize that my mom has a completely different recollection of the reality we grew up in versus what we actually grew up in.
Okay.
So, yeah,
That's
I just think that's probably the older generation and their minds slipping too. But, yeah, I think it's different. It's easier. Our girls are in the, uh, start school August and halfway through May school district. So it's not a big deal. Like our oldest will go down to stay with her dad, the first half of the summer. So she'll leave right before Memorial Day and come back at the end of June. And then she'll be here for about a month and then they'll start school. And that'll be interesting because this will be the first summer where she's by herself all day when she comes back here. So we'll have to think of things to keep her busy or try to find some kind of camp or whatnot to keep her occupied at least some part of the time.
Yeah, like camp was always a big thing, and like I remembered at our little town they had a lot of camps. They had a sports camp, they had a drama camp, they had a bunch of different camps that you could pay money to. But I'm surprised now that I think back how much stuff I did that in that world, 12, 13 years old, I was going to other island communities within Southeast Alaska. Southeast Alaska is made up of a bunch of little towns, 8 to 10,000, 20,000 people. And you would just take a ferry boat as a 12-year-old to this town with a group of people. Like it was not even a big thing. And I think now, gosh, I would never do that.
Right? Like we were kept busy like scouting. Like they'd always have like a day camp for the Boy Scouts and Cub Scouts for 1 week in June. And then there was the actual Boy Scout camp in July/August. So our summers were kind of built around that. Like I know my brother and I lived for going to Boy Scout camp. It was a week up in the mountains without my mom. We could do our own things. It was kind of cool for us. So we kind of got excited about that because we were all both very active in scouting growing up.
Okay.
So I mean that helped mitigate a lot of boredom in its own right.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is a lot different because a lot of kids, when I was a kid, you played outside. There was really no video games. I didn't really have video games like on a TV until I was 18, 19. So my whole childhood, there were no video games per se. And we were outside. And that was the other thing too, is in Alaska, during the summer, the sunlight is longer and brighter. So it was always fun because you could be out at 2:00 in the morning and it'd still be like dusk out. You could see everything. And so you'd hang out with kids and that's what you did. You just kind of hung out and, we'd take the bus downtown and walk around downtown, or we'd, take the bus out to the glacier and just kind of chill at the glacier. So there was always, it seemed like we found things to do that didn't put us in a lot of danger, but it was kind of an adventure.
Yeah. Yeah. And I get that. And we were kind of in similar boats too, because this was still a small enough town growing up to where we knew everybody and then vice versa. It wasn't a big deal for us, but there was, we only had like the two city pools. And I think that was about it for activities for, most kids around there. So either you went to the pool or you just stayed at home or hung out with your friends in your neighborhood, or you come over and play Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter 2.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, I think that the addition to video games probably has been a detriment, but also a good thing for kids because at least if you're playing video games, you have something to keep your mind occupied. You're at home where you're safe. If you need to, go get something to eat or you need to go to the bath, whatever, you're there, right? You're there at the house in a safe environment, but you don't hang out with friends. You don't interact with nature. You don't do any of that stuff. So I'm sure that it's probably got its hits or misses, but, when you have two parents that work though, and at least I know my kid is safe, my kid's at home, it's got to give them at least a sense of, okay.
Yeah. And that's really what
I feel like my kids are safe at least, if I'm not going to be able to be there.
It was always fun though. Like when my dad would be working nights, so he'd be home during the day and he'd go out and run errands. And my dad's not the type that could just go run to the store to go get something. He has to make 4 or 5 small stops along the way to go bullshit with his friends. And I realize now that's how I am. But growing up, I hated it as a kid because I'd want to go out just to get out of the house because I wanted to go to Walmart or Kmart or whatnot. But he was stopping by the gun shop, or he was going to so-and-so's house to see what they were doing, or he was going to get his hair cut, and a quick 20-minute trip is now turning into a 5-hour excursion where your whole summer day of things you wanted to do at home, like play video games or watch baseball, gone.
Yeah, yeah. You're interrupting my time, Dad.
And now I realize from the parental side, it's torture for some of those kids where you have to make them come with you. It's like, come on, you're coming with me. You have to get out of the house. You need out of the house. Let's go.
Yep.
So again, it's being older now. I can understand and appreciate getting them out of the house.
Yeah, and I was just thinking about it. I work at a company where I get New Year's Day off, and then my next holiday isn't till May for Memorial Day. So there's like the first 5 months of the year where I don't have a day off for a holiday. Like I didn't get Easter off. We had to work Friday. Now don't get me wrong. I would have had to work Friday, but I took the day off for the trip. But, so a lot of times as an adult, we're only getting 10 holidays a year.
Yeah. So I remember being in banking where if you're in the finance industry, you get so many 3-day weekends. It's not even funny.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it's the dry season from President's Day to Memorial Day, but after that, you get the Memorial Day, 4th of July, Labor Day, and then it's just like at least you don't go more than 3 weeks without having a 3-day weekend up until February.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Yep. Yeah, no, yeah, and the only thing I didn't like about the banking industry is that because they couldn't be closed 3 days or more than 3 days in a row, you had to work the Friday after Thanksgiving.
Yeah, well. Somebody had to work the Friday after Thanksgiving.
Yeah, Scott didn't, but someone did. Someone did. I
quit after like year 3. It's like, why am I here? I have the time off. I'm taking it.
But things have changed a lot. Now, the day of Thanksgiving, day after Thanksgiving, Christmas Day, those are big retail holidays. I mean, those are big days where you get a lot of business. And so a lot of companies are still saying, no, we have to work. Now we'll pay you holiday time, but you have to work.
I feel like Christmas not so much. I feel like that's like Christmas Eve, yes. Christmas Day, like no, that's a family day. Stop. That's just we're letting you have time with your family. I think A Christmas Carol taught us that with Ebenezer Scrooge. Don't be that guy.
I don't know. Here in the big city, that's not the case. You want to go to a movie on Christmas Day? Don't worry. They're playing them all over the place. You want to go to stores. You want to go to, maybe not stores as much because they've been busy all Christmas holiday. So they do kind of close on Christmas Day because how many people are going to, go shopping, but definitely retail like activities and food like restaurants. Christmas is open.
Yeah, I know like some restaurants, like I said, the independent restaurants are open. They open up later on in the day. Like around here, everything opens up at like 3 or 4 o'clock.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like 3, 4 o'clock, come on down. Like we're open, come to the movies, go to the restaurant, have dinner with your family. I always thought it was funny that Sonic would always open up at 4 o'clock on Christmas Day. And now I appreciate that Sonic opens up at 4 o'clock on Christmas Day. I've never eaten at Sonic, but there's slushies sometimes. And just to get out and go get something, it's a nice little just treat, just something different.
Do you miss though the times when the holidays actually meant something a little bit like Easter used to mean something more on a religious tack, or Christmas was more of a religious tack?
We were raised religious, but I think there's 2 types of people that are raised religious. Those who gravitate toward it later on in life, and those who are like, yeah, that's what I did growing up. That's cool. I don't mind if we don't do that. And our family is the latter. There got to a point where we were only going to Christmas Eve services because my grandpa in his 90s wanted to go.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And I remember it was one of the last years he was alive. It poured on Christmas Eve. Like it was a torrential downpour for hours. And it finally let up and we're like, are we going to Christmas Eve service? Does he want to go? And we made my dad call just to see like this is like either we're going to have to go or we can start drinking or keep drinking, because we were at Chili's watching a Cardinal game. I remember that. We came home. My brother and I came home half in the tank, and we asked my dad, I was like, you got to call him. And then my grandpa just straight out said, "It's raining. I don't want to go out. We're not going tonight." So we just kept the party going after that. But
Yeah. Okay.
Normal circumstances, yeah, he'd want to go to midnight, or not midnight service, but their Christmas Eve service. Easter, not so much. That's more my mom's side of the family because they were Episcopalian. So, it's Catholic light, all the preaching, none of the guilt.
Yeah. Right.
So, we would do that one, but I just don't, once we got old enough, I never gravitated back toward it.
Well, and I remember that was the one I would try to find a midnight mass in Kingman.
Yeah.
And the only one that had a midnight mass was Grace Lutheran. Everyone else, their mass was at 7. But I made it a habit of, if they had a midnight mass, I would go to midnight mass. It was always a really nice experience. I always felt like, it was something special about Christmas that I really, always appreciated. But you're right. Yeah. Like Easter, I got a couple texts, people wishing me happy Easter. And I always find it weird because I got people wishing me happy Easter. But I didn't know if they were wishing me happy Easter because of the religious aspect of happy Easter, or were they just saying happy Easter because it's a holiday and that's what they're celebrating.
Exactly. So as we wrap up today's show, we want to hear about your thoughts on growing up with the holidays. What did you do? Were they super serious for you, or were they really laid back? We want to know. Hit us up on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, all at Liquid Carnage. Try to guess what the EP did on his birthday / Easter weekend. He actually looks like he had a pretty good time. Make those guesses at liquid_EP on Twitter and the Instagram.
I think it's important too that if someone wants to celebrate it as a religious holiday, thank God we have a place in this country that we can do that. If you want to celebrate it with the Easter eggs, thank God we live in a place that allows you to do that too. Live your best life, man. Live your best life.
And I wish people just let people do that. Just live your best life. I don't care how you live it as long as it's not bothering mine.
Yeah. It's important that we celebrate what's important to us. Each of us can celebrate freely what's important to us. And like I had one friend that just texted me, he is risen. That's all he said. Yeah. He is risen. And I thought, you know what? Cool, man. I'm glad that you're enjoying the holiday for what it means to you. Christmas, exactly. Thanksgiving, the same thing. I mean, all of us have traditions that we go on, or that we do for the holidays, that, means something to us. And, by goodness, go for it, man. And I'll preach on.
Well, I'll tell you what, man, now that Easter has passed, we are on the home stretch to summertime activities. We just did our calendar for the summer. And I have to admit, man, like every year I want to spend more time like in the mountains, like in Williams, doing fun things and just being someplace cooler. And we looked at our calendar and there's a lot going on this summer. There's just, I don't know if it's just life this season or whatnot, but I'm trying to figure out when I'm going to get some actual time to go hang out with the cool people in Williams. And I'm just not sure when it's going to happen.
Yeah. Well, and we're in the same boat because we have access to the cabin now. So we want to go up to Williams and just to make it quick, we were in Oceanside for 4 days and there were a couple days where we didn't do much of anything. We just relaxed, chilled, and both of us said, you know what? Sometimes with work, I need this. I just don't want to do anything. Yeah. And we're excited about Williams to be having that kind of flexibility where we just say, you know what? We're just going up there to do absolutely nothing. And that's fine.
Maybe we can plan a Liquid Carnage retreat.
We might need to plan a Liquid Carnage retreat. That's right.
And we can hold it. We can hold a conference for anyone that wants to have a Q&A session with us. We can recreate our finest conversations over an actual beer in an actual bar. I mean, we'll spitball this idea and come up with it, but maybe you can win the opportunity to have a weekend Liquid Carnage retreat with the hosts and be ridiculed by the EP from 1,000 miles away.
Yeah, that sounds like a pretty good. We should really try to put something like that together. That'd be awesome.
I think it'd be a lot of fun. I think so. It's been written, so it shall be done.
There we go.
We will figure this out.
We
will figure this out. Well, that being said, Jason, why don't you take us home?
Hey, thanks for listening, everyone. We always appreciate you.